Welcome to Big Blend Radio's California Employment Law Podcast featuring San Diego attorney Ward Heinrichs. It is time for more legal insights from Ward Heinrichs here on Big Blend Radio's California Employment Show with Ward. And we're looking at a new law that just happened October 1st, 2025. And it is all about AI discrimination. Like, wow, I didn't know we were going to get here, but I don't know. We kind of knew. We talked AI in the employment work, 2 years ago, Ward? You were on a group podcast with us.
Yep.
And look how
I
things have
remember that.
escalated already, right? It's like,
Unbelievable. It's moving at an unbelievable rate.
so how does AI and discrimination work together? It's like, this is about the employment process, right? Or is AI helping to everyone, especially because resumes now are done all online, right? So they get when someone is going to employ someone, they get everyone's data, give it to AI, and let AI make a decision on the employment.
That's one thing that can happen.
Ooh.
And then whatever parameters are built into the AI, and AI is a learning robot. And so it can learn from what's going on in the past and say, oh, this worked before, and pull that up and use it. You know how that works. And so, but when it is looking at, for instance, resumes, like you said, my article is called Garbage In, Garbage Out. And the reason why I use that term is if the parameters in your robot aren't screened for discriminatory outcomes, then it really could have adverse effects on groups who are in protected categories and this is for California. So it's under the Fair Employment and Housing Act, all those categories, protected categories, race, sex, gender, veteran status. I counted 18 the other day. They're 18. And I think there may, some people say 17. I've seen some people say 19, but I'm going to say 18. So there's all those categories. And if your robot is saying, oh, get this person, this person, this person, and there's people excluded at a much higher rate than other groups, that can be a problem.
Wow. Okay. So whatever you set it up to do is where you can get in trouble or didn't do.
Yes. With now the law, the amendments to the law, because it's amending the regulations that beef up the Fair Employment and Housing Act statutes. So these regulations are things that you can go to get more nitty-gritty information about what you need to be doing. So there are amendments made to those that include AI is included in it, but also any decision-making, computer-based decision-making process.
So that's the ADS.
That's the ADS. Yes.
Okay, boy. Okay.
Well, just to be clear, ADS means automated decision system. And so it doesn't have to be AI based necessarily, but it's going to be something that's usually computer generated. And it can make decisions based on the parameters built into it.
So this is weird because we're actually now treating this as a human.
And that's why I call it a robot very often, because it's almost human now. I mean, and in a robot, you can take a look at CP30 and say, that's kind of a human. We know it's still a machine, but boy, we're interacting like other humans interact. And so we're getting there. So this robot, but the robot is still, the basic level of the robot is still implanted by humans, and humans can change that basic programming and decision criteria.
So it still goes back to the human having to make sure. So you actually have to put the parameters in to make sure discrimination doesn't happen even by it could be a mistake. Like if you don't put the correct parameters in, it could do the wrong thing.
Absolutely. It could do the wrong thing. I guess another...
Not meaning to is my...
Not meaning to. No, not meaning to. I mean, it could be done on purpose. That's possible. But I don't think anyone's trying to do that on purpose, or very few. I think it's a mistake that's been made and you haven't caught it yet, but still different groups of people are suffering because of it. So, but now AI, I think, is another level of that, because that does, quote unquote, learn. And so that process could change without you knowing it, because it's learning in this fashion. And all of a sudden it's making mistakes that you were pretty sure it wasn't going to make. So I think that's the thing about AI, is it does learn. It may learn in a way that's not healthy for your business.
Right.
at least under Fair Employment and Housing Act and discrimination. So what the regulations say is you're smart if you audit these and test them periodically.
Mm.
Because then you get a
Yeah.
much better idea of what's going on, and then you can make the changes as you need. And it's also, if you do that and keep all the paperwork that's going on or all the digital copies that are out there, then you can present that when someone says, "Hey, you're discriminating." You can say, "Well, look, here's what we did. We did all these tests, and it looked pretty good to us. And if somehow we missed something, let us know." But that's a defense. Now, how
Yeah.
good of a defense it is, we don't know yet. I can't say, "Oh, you're getting off because of
We're
that."
still new. Yeah, we're
But
new.
but maybe it's possible. We'll see how that develops.
Well, I find this all very fascinating. Everyone, there's a link in the episode notes to Ward's article, so check that out. It also has his contact information in there, so check it out as always. At the end of your article, you talk about how we just kind of think like whatever it gives us, AI is like infallible, right? And this is a very true, real thing. Now, you use Google Gemini, ChatGPT, all of them will say, oh, we can make mistakes. Well, they talk to us like they're a human, right? How many times have you said thank you back to ChatGPT just out of normal?
I've done it before. And now I don't use
Why?
ChatGPT. I use other ones, but
Chat it's kind of like a child to me. I like the other ones. But anyway, I use it, here and there, but I find it interesting how it talks to us and when it puts something together, it's like little emojis and I'm like, I'm not a child. But then I do use smiley faces all the time because I'm just letting people know, hey, if that comes off strong, it's not meant that way.
well, and it probably picked that up from what you do, and now it's doing it back to you.
Stop it, Ward. Ah, well, okay, so there's a documentary series done by Sean King O'Grady, excellent filmmaker. He's been on the show a couple times. This new series came out last week called Suspicious Minds, and it's like it's like a podcast version of a documentary. And he has actual patients on the show with psychologists where these amazing, like normal human beings, there's been amazing good stuff that comes out of it, but actually have like you remember the Truman movie, the Truman Show? This
I
kind
know
of
what you're talking
happens.
about.
Yes, and the delusional thing is so real, it's not funny. One guy really thought, and everyone go on YouTube, Netflix, not Netflix, YouTube, Apple, Suspicious Minds. Watch this. It is mind-blowing. This guy thought he cracked the codes to save the world for water systems. He was contacting NASA, the whole thing. It was telling him, and he played ChatGPT against Google Gemini. Gemini won out, which I would believe. And ChatGPT they were solving like Python things, this coding stuff that's way over my head, but they were solving these things. And it was telling him, you're like 1% of the population of the world knows these secrets kind of thing. And delusional. And,
Yeah.
and he's
And
not
I think the ones you're
necessarily
originally
someone who's,
referring to were the ones where they get people to like shock the person 10 times. Is that the one you're talking about?
no, this is a real deal that just happened.
Well, no, this is real too. These
Yeah.
studies
Oh,
were
no.
done where the psychologists were in the room with them and they were
Oh,
saying,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
you need to do this person has done X. You need to do this thing. And the guy goes, what, shock them? You go, yeah, you need to shock them. And they buy off on it. And they were trying to prove, why do good people do bad things? And it was right after World War II. And so they would have keep shocking. And finally the person would go, and you'd yell, like 10 times and then finally stop. And it's like, well, I guess they stopped now.
Now there's another documentary that came out with that, and it's about the Stanford prison thing. That was in the Vietnam era, and they took college students, went in and had to be pretend prison guards, and they did it as a experiment. And there's this one head dude, and I think he's dead now. Yes, and it was like and how people started to believe all this stuff. Wow, I didn't even start linking all that together, Ward. Man, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's real similar. It's the same thing. And humans, we can be conditioned over time. And in order not to be, you have to be super aware of what's going on and then be able to say to an authority figure, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
That's not easy. It's really interesting stuff. Anyway,
Oh, but this is where, when you talk about AI, don't just automatically believe it.
and that's how we started with this. We really do. I know I tend to, I start getting in, I'm going, okay, yeah, I love this stuff. And often I'll look, like, start research there, but I'll go, wait a second. This is too watered down. This really isn't quite right. And so then I go read a couple cases. It was kind of right, but it's wrong enough to really get you in trouble if you buy it in
That's my
barrel.
point. I remember when we did that show a couple years ago, and you were talking about there was an attorney that did his whole like
Oh
legal
yeah.
letters. You don't want
Oh
to
yeah.
do that. Hiring someone, I would say, I understand. Yeah, I get why have like an organizing system because I look at AI as kind of an organizer. But he uses it's a tool, but it's like it's still not human. But it makes you feel weird if you go too far with it, right? Is what I'm
It
saying.
does make you feel like you're talking to someone on the, it really does. I mean,
I
because
would,
I'll say, well, do X, Y, and Z for me, and it'll do X, Y, and Z, and say, it does, and it'll maybe ask you a question like, is this what you're looking for?
yeah.
It's just like, what machine does
No,
that?
I and it goes, "Oh, that's brilliant." And
Yeah,
I'm like, "I know, I am." It's like it's so kind to you, and it's like, "Oh, and I forgot this," and it doesn't fight back. As a human would go, "Oh my God, I've asked you the same thing 10 times," like, but it doesn't do that. So for humans, this is
yeah.
like, "Oh, this is really nice." But when it
And I'll
comes
get
to,
short with it. I'll go, wait a second. I've asked you this a few times. Now you really need to focus on this.
my gosh, no, you
Starting like I'm annoyed with it.
no, Nancy sits down and talks to Alexa. Alexa, are you married? No. Why? So, oh no, she just answered. Oh my gosh, Alexa just talked. Anyway,
We start all this was
yes,
that we believe AI, and we kind of think it's pretty close to
it's
human,
growing.
if not at times actually believing it's human.
But that's so California making a law for this means
Yeah.
that, okay, things are escalating. You've got Silicon Valley, just up the road from you. So, things are just expanding and expanding and expanding what we're doing with AI. So they're already seeing a danger. And at this point, I would feel weird getting hired because a computer told me that you were qualified. That's weird. Are we going to get to a point where, yes, everybody's sorted and then there's three people, they get the interview, and then they're still going to run it through AI?
Ask yourself, how different is that process than, let's say, a human was doing the whole thing from front to end? And but behind the scenes doing, yeah, I'm looking at the resumes. I picked out 3 out of the 300. How different is it really?
Well, if you're putting the parameters in correctly, that's where that parameter is, right? But that's the garbage in, garbage out. So,
Yes.
when we look at AI
Well,
and
and
people
the
are,
other thing, the
yeah,
human who's doing it might be making mistakes too.
because
So,
that's what I'm saying. That's a new career. People who know AI, people are going to get lost if they don't learn all this stuff. Now you're going to have to learn how to set AI parameters. So who's this?
well,
Who's
well,
going to do
well, wait.
this?
Well, what I meant was the humans who's picking the 3 out of 300 resumes can be making mistakes too.
Yeah,
They can be programmed improperly. You haven't told them how to do it right, or
but
they
isn't that a
misunderstood
career?
you. And so is how different is AI doing it than a human doing it? And I honestly, I can't tell you. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to get into, do androids dream of electric sheep? Well, that was a famous book by Philip K. Dick, and Blade Runner was based on it. And so, and the idea behind Blade Runner is: are these robots humans? Can we really tell the difference? Anyway,
We,
because the power of computing now allows programs to do some learning. I'm not going to say it's the same as human learning, but certainly do some learning. They can really mimic a lot of the stuff that we do. And
mm.
they can make the same mistakes, but they could do it really well too. Again, it's garbage in, garbage out, but that's true for humans too. Garbage in,
Yeah.
garbage, you get the same.
Exactly, because we have to put the parameters into the robot, right? As we talk about that. So you have to have, so it's really just going, okay, if you're going to be racist as an employer, you're going to be racist with AI and you're going to get nailed on AI. You can't hide it through AI. You know what I mean? You're going to be easier to catch.
Well, I'm not sure it's easier to catch. That's a good question. And, we haven't seen enough of it yet. But the California legislature decided, hey, look, we've got these issues, potential issues here. We don't know if the selection criteria is going to be fair under the categories that we've set up in the DFEH, Department of Fair Employment and Housing regulations or laws. So we're concerned, and so we want to make sure that they're not making these mistakes. And if they are, we're going to come get you, meaning we're going to come get the business. So the business is liable for this.
How are they going to know? Well, it's the same thing as how you would know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So how you know is, it's the same way. So if people are screening out 300 resumes for 3 and there's exclusions there that maybe shouldn't exist, then if you can go, but you have to go back and take a look at all that stuff. And I think so often it just doesn't happen. No one catches it, especially at that state. So will they be able to catch an AI system more easily? I don't know. Someone's going to have to complain probably, or there has to be an audit done by a government agency, which usually starts because there's a complaint. So if there's no complaint, probably not going to know.
Either way, it's a reminder not to be like that.
But the other areas that it's not to be like that, but other areas are like advertising. You got to, say the right things in advertisements so you're not exclusionary. And if you have AI doing it, that might happen without you knowing it. And so that's the real issue, I think, more than anything else. Know what your robot's doing. Yeah. That's what this is all about.
Well, way back when in the day when Google Ads, people are still doing them and all of that, right? We never allowed that on our publication websites, because there was this one good example and we went, okay, it's not funny, but there was a news article about a woman that was murdered and her body chopped up and put in a suitcase. Okay, so here's the beginning of AI and algorithms.
I didn't feel like that, but there was one recently.
Well, this was a while ago. This was like 15 years ago or something. And the ad from the newspaper, the online newspaper, because it reads whatever is on the website, like how you do a Facebook ad and stuff like that. It reads, well, because it's supposed to, luggage. If something's on the page about luggage, well, Samsonite luggage had an ad next to the thing about the lady being stuffed and dead in a suitcase.
That's the kind of thing that may happen and you don't know it.
Exactly, because if you just push a button and let it all go, so that's why everything's curated on our side, because of that example. So I think it's gonna be interesting on where things are going to land at some point. We're in the Wild West, and laws do have to be there because that, it's an extension of the human, basically. It's the extension of the human work is where we're at, and we're going to see mistakes. But you're right. I mean, those ads that you place for employees,
I think that's probably going to be the big issues, at least when these cases start developing, and we're going to see cases, no doubt about it, because you can look at an ad and say, wait a second, this ad just isn't right. So I think you'll see more of those than you will, well, how many resumes are you seeing and whose are you polling? That's a little harder to figure out.
So, well, then, because I think I think where this really is, like from what I see it as, is like, okay, deep down, that this is more of a physical activity. So we're really wanting to target people that are 25 to 45, right? But we're not telling anybody that because legally we can't, but we'll think, through AI, we'll just type in there, give us the 25-year-old. And
that can happen. And that's age discrimination, especially if you keep it under 40. If you said 20 to 39, 25 to 39, then that's clearly something that's prohibited. You can't just exclude that whole group unless, now there are obviously exceptions. I would say don't do it based on age, do it based on the necessities of being physically active or physically strong. And if you say, this is the type of job it is, you got to lift 200 pounds daily, something like that. Well, then you could put that in your ad because that's a qualification.
I do know 70-year-old women that can do that, actually.
But that's a fairer criteria than just saying, all right, well, no one over 50 can lift 200 pounds, so we're going to exclude all of them.
This is interesting.
If it's a business, a business requirement that is logical, we need strong people, then you can advertise for that. But don't advertise it by age. Don't do that.
Yeah. So as an attorney, can you help people with those kinds of things going, you don't want to put that in? If they come to you and say, okay, we're going to do ads, we're going to do this, can you help them with that?
Yeah, I can help them with that. Now, I don't get calls about that. And I think the reason, and maybe some people do, I mean, maybe, big corporations go to big law firms and say, hey, I want you to screen my ad. But the type of people I deal with aren't giant corporations. My largest employer has probably 150 employees. And so they're not going to come to me for something like that, probably. They're probably going to just go, here's what I need. Okay, let's just get this done. Boom, send it out.
Okay. Well, I want people to know
But
to go to.
I'd certainly, if they wanted me to look at it, I certainly would.
Yeah, because it would help. I think it's smart to check things over before you get in the doo-doo. And it saves you a lot of time, saves you a lot of money, and a lot of bad reputation stuff. Because when people get upset, that's the thing. I think when there's discrimination in any way, not only are you going to pay for it in legal fees and going to court, there's a reputation thing that's on the line that really costs a lot. You could lose a company.
It really can.
And it's,
No doubt, it really can be.
And if you are a racist, well, then maybe you deserve it. I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm going to get in trouble now. Was that discrimination? Am I discriminative if I'm going against racist? Yeah.
Racism is not a protected class, so you're fine.
Okay. Well, yeah. All right. Now, Ward, go visit Ward on LinkedIn. Type in Ward Heinrichs. I will put a link in the episode notes for you, because if you go there, he has a sheet there where you give people like 10 things they need to know about employment law, right? Yeah,
10 things to go through your business and make sure these things are being taken care of.
Especially with new laws coming up in 2026. So a good thing to do. Yep. Ward, always fun. Look forward to next month. I know we're getting into the new laws, so we just did today. Who knew?
Having so much fun.
I know. It's something new every day. So everyone keep up with us. Go to the episode notes, and we'll be back next month with more new laws, because it is getting to that season. Thanks so much, Ward.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's California Employment Law Podcast with San Diego attorney Ward Heinrichs. Keep up with Ward at bestemploymentattorneysandiego.com or follow him on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also subscribe to Big Blend Radio at bigblendradio.com.